Happy Sunday. It is go time. Getting ready for a good week. A week where I think we're going to start tomorrow. We're going to read through the section in that embodied cognition handbook on attention, embodied attention. Then we could go into, I think we're going to read more of the Lisa Feldman Barrett book, Prediction Social Brain, and maybe we get through enough of it, but I'm sure we'll have some spillover into the next day. But we have a bunch of topics that we can, or actually a bunch of days where we can add topics. What did I have next week here? Mindfulness. Oh, this was to go back into the mindfulness stuff, just to think about that. I think I'm going to start reading. Well, I forget what the book was called actually. Something about dopamine. Behavior. No, it's something about, I don't know, some book about dopamine. I think that's probably good for me to do right now. For this month, February. Okay. What is going on here? January theme. Attention and focus. We've got... I still have to do this. I still have to edit this. I do want to do these. I think it'll be nice to have a 2025 version just for the records before we start editing a lot of this stuff, because I do want to actually spend a lot of time this year editing part 1 of the document, because there's a lot of things now I want to change. Things that we've learned since, things that I think that we have to include. So this is already filmed. We'll do that. We can get it ready for filming the next one, the read through on the next. I forget what that's going to be. Maybe here? Maybe we could try to get that into March. I'm not sure. We need stuff to do here. I'm sure we're going to spend a lot of time on biases and whatnot and everything that February has to offer. Yeah. But we should do a day for this. What is this? Build a series of questions. So networking day. Network planning day. Maybe here. Network planning. Network planning. I still need to do this. This is kind of crazy. I'm just pushing it off. It's going to be a lot, though. Post-December summary to Substack. That's what we did. That's what I did today. Make shorts from previous streams. So I have organized the days that I think have short-worthy content. So maybe I'll start editing that stuff. I should do an editing push. Get into an editing push. The nuances of the Stamerson document theory of mind. So I don't like the calling it this, but maybe I'll just say my. Let's just. This is also a little pompous. Let's just go my theory of mind. But I also don't want to. The issue is I don't want to make it seem like it's just my theory of mind, in the sense that it's just kind of like an opinion I have, which I guess it is kind of an opinion I have, but it would be ideal if I could somehow capture the fact that this is where like the science has brought us. I'll think about it. I'll think about it a little bit more. All right, research comprehensive marketing plan. So let's set that up for like next week. Marketing plan. And then maybe the following week we can do like a, I know I'm jumping the gun here, but maybe like a monetization plan. Is that how you spell monetize? Can I do that? Yes, okay. Monetization plan. I think it would be cool to just like throw into Gemini asking it like what would be the optimal way for us to monetize while making sure fans are getting what they want. It's not affecting anyone in a negative way. Perhaps we can optimize to not lose money to services like Twitch. Yeah, we'll figure that one out. Yeah, I think that's something we'll do. And what else? What else we got? Reading the Embodied Cognition Handbook chapters on attention and memory. So this is coming up tomorrow. Reading on the reproducibility crisis. We could do that for fun. And then reviewing the Skeptic's Dictionary. And what was this? I have this right here, but why did I want to do this? Critical thinking? This we want to do like in a different month, actually. Let's put this over with the thinking month. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we don't have too much stuff that we absolutely have to do then. I should be able to just do this stuff, but we'll see. All right. We've cooked this up. December 2025 summary. The summary was generated with Gemini using this prompt and then edited by Stan. December was a month of scientific grounding and philosophical ventures. After spending the autumn constructing our foundational view of consciousness, we pivoted into unpacking the neuroscience of change, challenging our assumptions about perception, and testing our intuitions and skepticisms. It was a dense, productive month that ended with a much appreciated holiday break. All right, the framework and intellectual progress, the big picture. This month, the stream focused on part 2 of the Stan Richardson document. Woo! Specifically zooming in on the biological machinery that makes change and stability possible. What makes you unique? We kicked off the month by tackling the concept of individual difference. We moved beyond generic advice to explore how temperament and personality traits like openness and conscientiousness contribute to our unique experience/perspective. We established that these traits aren't just labels, but cognitive realities that affect which opportunities manifest for us and which feel attainable or appealing to us. I could get rid of the to us here. Let's do some editing. I can't help myself. Okay. There we go. And then the other thing I was going to say, specifically zooming in on the biological machinery that makes agency and change possible. There we go. There we go. I hope this doesn't like send out another notification. If it does, please someone let me know. All right, we're in light mode now. All right. The brain that changes itself. We spent several days dissecting the science of neuroplasticity, drawing heavily on the work of Norman Doidge and Michael Merzenich. We explored the concept of competitive plasticity, the idea that brain maps are dynamic and constantly fighting for real estate. Key takeaways included the use it or lose it principle and the hopeful yet daunting reality that our brains are structurally modified by our actions and thoughts. We went over inactive cognition. We challenged the passive receiver model of the brain by diving into inactive cognition. We discussed the idea that perception is action, illustrated by the fact that a stationary eye effectively goes blind. So the idea here also, which we can easily connect to the idea of active inference. So that's like a predictive processing type of view. Active inference, that we are constantly engaging in activity towards our expectations about the world. And so the question is like, when you're thinking about bottom-up data, sensory data, Like, what is that sensory data that you're actually taking in? It's certainly not all the data that you could possibly be taking in. So, for example, our eyes are doing many different things, such as focusing and whatnot. And while we have this kind of like view of a camera where it focuses and it gets like a, you know, a slightly different picture, like, you know, imagine that this is much more fundamental to just how not only our periphery sense organs operate, but even the networks within our brain and body work. Like, you know, imagine every piece of this puzzle is acting to towards what it expects is coming. And so I didn't explain that the best, but we'll work on it. We concluded that we do not just see the world, we enact it through our motor engagement, reinforcing the framework's emphasis on agency. All right, then we had Astrology Day, the case study. In an exercise of skepticism and statistical literacy, we stepped aside our usual curriculum to conduct a Steelman investigation of astrology. Our goal was to understand its historical origins and determine if any of its tenets have been empirically validated. While we intuited that there might be genuine biological effects based on birth month due to seasonal factors like daylight exposure and temperature, our review of the data found little to no significant evidence to support astrological claims, or at least to provide us with some practical tool set. Provide us. Is the with necessary? Nah, that's fine. It's fine. Morality Survivor. We closed the month with a deep dive into ethics, where we engaged in a meta-ethical battle royale to determine which framework best fits our empirical understanding of the mind. We rejected frameworks such as moral realism, the notion that moral facts exist objectively, independent of human minds. Moral rationalism, for example, Kant, the idea that moral truths are knowable through pure reason alone, independent of emotion. Moral intuitionism, since relying solely on self-evident truths is dangerous because one's conscience can be quote-unquote badly calibrated. For example, believing something eventually or predominantly understood as heinous is due... Believing that something eventually... Okay, I do need to change this. Believing that something... Okay, believing something that eventually or predominantly... Oh, geez. How would I say this? This is a weird... believing something... is good that eventually or predominantly becomes understood as heinous. Becomes or predominantly is understood . I'm going to just go majoritatively. Majoritatively is understood. Oh, geez. Is this not a word? Is an majoritively. I'm going to run with it. Let's do it. Add to dictionary. Boom. We settled on a process-based virtue ethics rather than viewing morality as a strict static mandate. We conceptualized it as a continuous responsibility to engage. We concluded that we can mindfully direct our internal models to maintain consistency with what we believe to be right, while acknowledging that we need to institute heuristics that can tell us when our conscience is moving in a direction that demands our attention. We will eventually cover these topics in much more detail. Right. Content release log, the Substack launch, the Substack monthly monthly summary launch. We officially launched the monthly stream summaries on Substack, providing a way for the community to follow the project's evolution without watching daily VODs. Content planning. While no new video essays or short form content were released in December, we discussed ideas for future shorts, videos, essays. Community and channel operations. Looking back on December 1st, we took time to recap the channel's operational wins from the previous months, like the resolution, upgrade, and automation tools, setting the stage for a focused December. Holiday break. The stream took a scheduled recess starting December 19th for the holidays, returning on December 31st to ring in the new year. We might have come back earlier than that. I don't know. We'll see. Community shout-outs. We've got Onion Helmet for consistently keeping the vibes high and the chat grounded, from joking about psychologists making shit up during our Phineas Gage review to laughing at the hunger signal. Darmadam for the brilliant etymological breakdown of sin as hamartia, missing the mark. It perfectly bridged the gap between ancient theology and our modern goal-setting strategy. Daniel End for keeping the intellectual honesty high. They pushed back during the morality debate, questioning if we were hand-waving moral realism, and brought up the 13th constellation during our astrology deep dive. Energy Domter for consistently being the citations manager of the community, forcing us to clarify why we prioritize specific cognitive science texts over others. Reclusi for the relatable honesty during our deep dive into rationality, speaking for all of us with, I prefer thinking I'm not the only one who isn't always rational. Filcher, the Lurker of the Month award, popped in on December 14th just to say, we could just say popped in just to say I'm here too, by the way, just lurking, reminding us the silent majority learning along with us. All right, quote of the month. The Pope would for sure smoke JP in a rap battle. Onion Helmet. Believing in yourself is a rather funny phrase. If you weren't, you couldn't believe in you. Changebox. Plasticity is triggered by the difference between prediction and reality. Stan. All right, looking ahead, we are officially in the thick of part 2. January will see us continuing to outline sections on attention, focus, and motivation. See our roadmap for more. How to follow along. Boom. We're in there. Update. Okay. That leads us to part 2. Practical levers of 8. Actually, no. I think we're operating at this level here. We're trying to figure out if this outline that I came up with a couple days ago has everything it needs, and it probably doesn't. So can you give me a comprehensive list of all the topics that should be included in my outline/direction so far that is currently missing? Based on a detailed analysis of your part 2 notes, here is a comprehensive list of topics and concepts that appear to be missing, underdeveloped, or implicit, but should be made explicit to complete your user's manual for agency. I've categorized these gaps by where they logically fit into your existing structure. Thank you very much. That's awesome. You cover biology and attention well, but there is a gap in temporal architecture and information hygiene. So information hygiene, we definitely want in here. I don't know what's going on with temporal architecture. Chronobiology. You mentioned timing and ultradian cycles and chronotypes briefly under learning and nature versus nurture, but you lack a dedicated strategy for energy management versus time management. The when, not just the what, a practical guide to mapping high cognitive load tasks to peak biological windows. For example, the peak trough recovery cycle rather than just time blocking. Okay, where would that be? Where would that be? This is going to be something like cognitive function here. Techniques. Tips. This isn't just simply like learning or that. It's not any of this stuff. It shouldn't be. It should be up here. It shouldn't be automatically here. It should be cognitive functioning, right? It's not just simply building. Okay, yep. So for here, we should, you know, I don't know if we're going to keep like full sections on sleep and relaxation and exercise and stuff like that. We could probably just have like a section that simply is called something like increasing cognitive performance. Which can talk about sleep and relaxation. And then I can, is this all on sleep? What is going on here? Sleep and, okay. Yeah. So let's get all that up there. And then we could talk about exercise. Get all that in here. Social relationships. We have to be careful here not to step on part 3's toes too much. This is specifically for the sake of your cognitive abilities. Medication and performance enhancers. That we could all do within here. Okay, okay. Cognitive enhancement and potential drawbacks. Right, we could just add this in there. Now, what about this stuff? Good tech, digital mind, train attention, cognitive augmentation system. I don't know what's going on here. Whoa, we got even more digital dependence. We could just keep this stuff all the way down there. It's fine. It's fine. Yo, Darmanon, what's good? What are we up to today? We are slowly going to make sure that this part 2 outline has everything that it needs. And at the same time, we are going to chisel at it, making sure that we are giving a good survey of this material. I'm G was just reading. Nice, hell yeah. Anything interesting? Anything fun? Oh, nice. Well, Yoga Nidra in a minute. Awesome. Cool update. I think today is going to be. I actually haven't meditated yet, but today is going to be 15 minutes on the dot. So we made it. We made it to the big 15. Here we go. Manual of Insight. Most comprehensive manual of the practice of insight meditation, written by one of its foremost 20th century proponents. Magnum opus, one of the originators of the Vipassana movement that has swept through the Buddhist world over the last 100 years. The manual presents a comprehensive overview of the practice of insight meditation, including the foundational aspects of ethical self-discipline, understanding the philosophical framework for the practice, and developing basic concentration and mindfulness. It culminates with an in-depth exploration of the various types of insight and spiritual fruits that the practice yields. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, definitely let me know if that's going to be one that I'm like 200 pages in, man. That's a hefty boy. Hey, good stuff. So technical and hard. Geez, trying to just learn what I can. A lot goes over my head. I'm like 200 pages in. Okay, well then maybe that might be out of my reach in terms of my ability to comprehend. All right, we got to figure out why this thing happens. Why does it differ? The font here, we got Yeah, why are we getting a different font for different? That's the only one that's changed now, so I don't know. So yeah, there was this increasing cognitive performance. Then as a separate category, we need something like yeah, strategic strategies for productivity, something like this. This can be something like the temporal architect, chronobiology, timing and ultradian cycles, stuff like that. Practical guide to mapping high cognitive load tasks to peak biological windows. That's the type of thing that we would want to talk about there. All right, the input diet, information hygiene. You mentioned information overload and digital mindfulness, but you lack a proactive strategy for curating the predictive model. This is something that we talk about. Where are we going to talk about this? I think we would talk about this. Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. Would we not just talk about this within the culture and beliefs? I know this is a huge topic to just like bring up, but the input diet, information, garbage in, garbage out. Since the brain is a predictive machine, the quality of data determines the quality of prediction. You need a section on actively filtering information sources to prevent model poisoning. Something like that. This is a little bit of a constrained view, though. I think the view should be larger, just how we can leverage information diet in general. Now, information diet needs to be a topic that we also bring up later on. I think we do talk about that somewhere, but that should be something like, it should be something within here. Information diet. I like a lot of the ideas in it. There are some differences from Mahayana. I'm trying to contemplate. He goes on a lot about the 4 elements: fire, water, earth, air. Okay, nice. So I'm guessing it's deep in a spiritual vocabulary or language in some sense. Not vocabulary, but a spiritual perspective. All right, missing in identifying what to pursue. Identifying what to pursue. You cover selecting goals and values, but you miss the decision architecture needed to choose between them. Do we do that? We setting the mindset, self-identity. That's pursuing goals. Determining where to go, reflecting on values and whatnot, considering possibility. So yeah, we need to talk about. Oh, this is a whole different thing. Reflecting on value. Okay. We need to have something on making decisions. Making decisions. In general. Decision models. Second order thinking. Considering consequences of consequences. I don't know what that means yet, but reversible versus irreversible decisions. Hell yeah. Probabilistic thinking, a practical how-to for Bayesian updating. Assign percentage confidence to beliefs rather than just the theory. That should be in there. The shadow of agency, self-sabotage. You mentioned imposter syndrome and fear of failure, but you miss fear of success and the upper limit problem. Oh, where do we talk about imposter? Imposter in goal framing. This is pursuing goals effectively. Oh, I do like this, actually. And I think I do like the idea of putting it in the determining where to go here, considering possibilities. So this is where we can talk about imposter syndrome and fear of failure. But then there's also this other side of the equation where we don't want to hinder our what is this, fear of success and upper limit problem. So I probably don't know as much about these things, but let's get that in the mix. I like it. A lot of jargon. Nice. A huge chunk of it is Buddha quotes and its commentaries and explaining those. Okay, that's pretty cool. A lot of interpretation there. I mean, if this is the magnum opus that I guess strengthened the Vipassana wave, then it's got to have a lot of good wisdom. All right, missing topic, identity lag. When your external reality changes, goal achieved, but your internal self model hasn't updated, leading to self-sabotage to return to baseline. This fits perfectly with your homeostasis thesis. Okay. Identity lag. This is a huge topic to talk about when we specifically talk about relationship with self and self-identity. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, missing and pursuing goals effectively. This section is strong on starting habits, but weak on sustaining the middle. I see. Right. The messy middle, plateau management. But you need to address the phenomenology of the plateau. Missing topic, the valley of disappointment. The, okay, are formed. So this has got to be like a topic of maintaining. Maintaining habit? I don't know. The phenomenology of, okay, plateau management. For example, the phenomenology of the plateau. I don't know why it's bolded here. The valley. Of disappointment. What to do when the dopamine of the start fades but the results haven't appeared yet. How to maintain faith in this lag time. Crazy. He is authoritative for Theravada, which tries to stick to the origins of Buddhism, although sometimes differentiated from early Buddhism, which takes that even further. Okay. It'll be interesting to see how many branches there are in that space. I really just have no idea. Feedback literacy. You discuss social relationships and mentorship, but knowing how to receive feedback is a distinct skill. Right. Okay, where would that be? This is like social feedback, right? Let's just put it here. Social feedback as separate from social relationships. effective social relationships. I don't know. But yeah, we do need to talk about how to receive feedback is a distinct skill. Missing topic, the art of receiving feedback. How to separate the signal useful from the noise without triggering an amygdala hijack defensiveness. Nice. All right, cognitive offloading, the second brain. You mentioned tool-assisted learning and cognitive augmentation, but this can be solidified into a specific strategy. Personal knowledge management, building an external system, not just for learning, but for thinking. This is the practical application of the extended mind theory you cited. Where would that be? Oh, that could be this. Yeah, that would be something like learning. It would be tool-assisted learning. This would be personal knowledge management. All right, missing in managing trajectory. You'd cover taking stock, but the concept of quitting needs more nuance. Strategic quitting, you mentioned pivoting and distinguishing grit from sunk costs is good, but quitting often carries shame. Kill criteria, setting... oh, this is cool. Okay. Realignment, reassessment. This could be under reassessment. Kill criteria. Maintenance versus growth. Most of the section focuses on achieving or growing the maintenance mode. How to pause a goal without losing it. Life is not always linear growth. Okay, got that in there. Let's do more. Let's do more. Let's just keep it coming. Let's get it all in there so that we don't miss anything. And we will still miss something. That is the spirit. Let's turn this from a collection of notes into a cohesive architectural blueprint. Based on your notes and our analysis of the missing pieces, I've constructed the master outline. Oh wait, what's going on here? I don't want to do that. New. Okay. No, this is just... okay, let's do more. Great. I added those. Can you give me more? I need this to be as insanely comprehensive as it needs to be, as it demands to be. We could get a second thing going. A ChatGPT thing going. Let's say if I were to write a completely comprehensive paper on everything that is involved with identifying and pursuing our goals, what needs to be included? What topics need to be included? What subjects need to be included? What concepts need to be included. All right, to make this document insanely comprehensive, we need to look at the spaces between the topics you have already outlined. We need to address the nuances of complexity, environment, interpersonal conflict, and systems thinking. Here is a list of deeper, more granular topics that are currently missing or underrepresented in your outline, categorized by where they need to fit in your structure. All right, missing in the practical levers of agency, embodied cognition, and interoception. You mentioned biological constraints as fuel. You need to add embodied cognition, the concept that how we move affects how we think. Using movements to solve problem, walking to stimulate divergent thinking, interoceptive accuracy, training the ability to feel internal states, to distinguish between physical fatigue, emotional anxiety, or intuition. Don't we have this stuff? I could just take this and put it in the mindfulness section that we currently have. This is like emotion intelligence here. Developing emotional literacy exercises to help readers recognize when curiosity or anxiety is guiding them, allowing them to adjust their actions based on these clues. Right, we could just throw this in there. Using body movements to solve problems. So thinking with the body is something that we could put into the section on thinking, which is identifying what to pursue, making sense of the moment and thinking, etc. So I think maybe we need just a thinking here. Oh, it's got to be for thinking. Tools for thinking. And then we could talk about being precise with our speech. Making it explicit. Should I just gank Brandon's title? All right, environmental design, choice architecture. You mentioned circumstances, but you need a section on proactive design. Right, nudging yourself, apply that. Okay, choice architecture to your own room / office. How to engineer the path of least resistance so the right choice is the lazy choice. All right, this is a good topic. This is, we're affecting... This could be here, strategies for productivity, just in general. Context dependence memory / performance, using specific locations for specific tasks to trigger state changes automatically. We have to look into how much evidence is on each of these like how practical is it, or how useful is it to actually do this practically? Is it actually worth telling someone about? Missing and identifying what to pursue, direction and thinking, systems thinking, seeing the loops. You discuss logical reasoning, but linear logic fails in a complex world. Feedback loops and leverage points. Understanding that interventions often have delayed or non-linear effects. Don't just solve the problem. Fix the system that caused the problem. Wow, okay. This is some deep stuff here. We got thinking, we got logical reasoning, rational thinking. I'll put it in here. Systems thinking. Systems thinking. Interventions often. Okay, yeah. This could actually be... Oh, no, this is fine. This is fine. Second order consequences, moving beyond immediate results to the result of the result. Didn't I just do that, though? Consequence of... of the... Oh, this is going into part 1. Main takeaways. To do. Considering why we have certain beliefs. Okay, so we're back into part 2. Maybe there was only one. So I don't remember where that went. All right, the architecture of values, the hierarchy of conflict. You mentioned reflecting on values, but values often conflict. So, yeah, right, we have to consider how to... Reflecting on values, so this would include this type of discussion of some sort of adjudication of values. How to adjudicate between two good values when they collide. Yes, yes, yes. Luck versus skill, the paradox of success. You mentioned circumstances, but need to operationalize luck. The luck, how to position yourself to increase the probability of lucky events. Right. So, how much of this should we... in the personal contexts? Yeah, what is this? What part of this is not... This is pursuing goals effectively, right? This would be setting the mindset, have a routine, leveraging the social environment. This is like a general type of discussion, though. This isn't specifically for... This is like, how do you just set yourself up well? Is this a part 3 discussion? Maybe, actually. Like, what are we trying to... Yeah, like in part 2, it would have to be, I think, a discussion of a specific goal. Given that, like, what else... What does luck mean in this section, you know? Like, we understand what energy is going to mean. We understand how emotion's going to affect, like, luck with what? It would have to be, I think, a discussion at the end of part 2. But even then, why not just put into part 3? It could be realignment, relationship with the nah, let's just put it in part 3. Resulting, distinguishing between a bad decision that got lucky and a good decision that got unlucky. This is great, and this is something that we would do in this, like, taking stock of progress or reassessment. Missing and pursuing goals effectively. Project management versus habit management. You focus heavily on habits, but writing a book or launching a product is a project, not just a habit. Project management for individuals. Basic concepts of scoping, milestone, and the definition of done. All right, this is all stuff. This is goal framing. Project management. The checkpoint strategy, how to break massive nonlinear projects into linear actionable chunks. This can be something like, this can be a topic within implicit rules of goals as a way to determine the checkpoints, the necessary checkpoints, or necessary sub-goals. However we would want to say it. And let's grab this, and then let's delete this. Okay, the social dynamics of conflict, agency versus agency. You cover mentorship and social relationships, but agency often involves conflict and negotiation. Right, social feedback. Yeah, this is where it needs to be. Boundaries in the art of no. Negotiation, persuasion. Status games. That's a lot, actually, for these sections. All right, and then empathy maybe should just go in its own little section here. I'm sorry, not a section. This would be like within that topic. Divergent versus convergent modes. You mentioned creativity, but need to operationalize the mode switching. Explicitly separating explorer mode from manager mode. Trying to do both at once causes paralysis. So this could be something that we talk about in the goal framing. Okay, missing in managing trajectory, the shadow and integration, the subconscious saboteur. Mentioned trauma and bias. Shadow work, identifying the parts of your personality you suppress and how they sabotage your goals if not integrated. Whoa. This is a part 3-er, if I've ever seen one. Just general things to work on overall. Savoring, closing the dopamine loop. You mentioned rewards, but savoring is a cognitive skill. The skill of savoring, positive psychology research on how to prolong the intensity of positive experiences to reinforce the behavior loop. High achievers often skip this and burn out. Oh, this could be something we talk about for the sake of a goal. This could be a framing discussion. Yeah, we still have a lot to categorize here or make subsections about. Information management, the second brain. You mentioned tool-assisted learning, curation and synthesis, how to move from collecting dots to connecting dots. Sure. This is what, tool-assisted learning. Okay. Okay, I added those. Can we do even more? And I do want to now refresh. What do we have? We still have different. Yeah, all these new ones are now a different style. I'm not sure why that would be. I think I could just do this manually, right? I could just go calibrate. Cool. Hopefully it's not based on the... I don't know, who knows? I could just always use my default styles. Oh, I hope I didn't change anything that... Ooh, let's hope everything's still good. Okay, what happened over here? If I were to write it... Okay, below is a maximally comprehensive, academically defensible map of what must be included in a paper that truly covers everything involved in identifying and pursuing goals. I'll treat this as a theory of goal-directed human behavior problem, integrating psychology, neuroscience, philosophy, economics, sociology, systems theory, and applied practice. This is a structure... This is structured so you could use it as a table of contents, collapse it into a framework, or expand with each node into chapters, sections, or empirical progress. What is a goal? Goal versus desire versus intention versus value versus preference. Whoa. This is what? Identifying what to pursue. Short-term versus long-term goals. Okay. Conscious versus implicit goals. Conscious versus unconscious goals. Individual versus... Okay. Can we get a... Oh, this is a lot. can we get 1 or 2 sentences for each of these these points, so that I can better understand what that section would cover, what that section / topic would cover. All right, I think I might call it though. You know, it might be a short strem. Mainly because we're gonna be doing this stuff at length this week, and then also, yeah, this gives me some relaxation time. Below is the same structure, but now each item has 1 to 2 precise sentences. Okay, what is a goal? Defines what qualifies as a goal and distinguishes it from related constructs. Okay, clarifying differences in time horizon. So we don't really care about this, right? What does pursuing a goal mean? Examines a goal pursuit as a process involving cognition, emotion, behavior, and time, rather than merely trying, and specifies what counts as genuine pursuit versus passive preference. Wow. All right, so I think we like these things are already covered for us. Levels of analysis. Explain that goals can be analyzed at multiple interacting levels, that no single level fully explains goal-directed behavior on its own. Okay. Goal identification, where goals come from. Origins of goals. Explores how survival, reproduction, energy efficiency, and pain pleasure systems generate baseline goal tendencies shaped by evolution. This is kind of covered already. Psychological sources covers how personality, needs, and identity, emotions, and developmental history influence which goals feel compelling or aversive to an individual. We've got that as well. Circumstances, constraints, and opportunities. Cognitive sources analyze how beliefs, mental models, imagination, and counterfactual thinking allow humans to generate abstract, future-oriented goals beyond immediate drives. So this is just in general. So this isn't really a practical guide, right? Could we get the practical guide, maybe? Oh. Comprehensive paper on everything that can be leveraged for identifying and pursuing our goals. There we go. That's what we should do. And this really should not be auto. I think maybe we would want to go. So I'm going to gut this one. I'm going to go delete here. Let's do a new one. And then let's go thinking. And I might call it there. I'm going to wait until it generates, but then yeah, we could call it. I'm going to start reading that book later today. I forget what it's called. It's going to be on dopamine and stuff related to that. Yeah, and then I might read a Sapolsky book. Sapolsky, Behave. That's the one I was thinking of. And is the other one called Molecule of Desire? Something of Desire? Chemical? Molecule of More. Yeah, this is what I'm going to start reading tonight. How a single chemical in your brain drives love, sex, and creativity and will determine the fate of the human race. So I'm a little skeptical about this one just because of how the framing being used. If it's too, I don't know, too high abstraction in the sense that like it's starting to talk about, not high abstraction, but if it's at the level of perspective of like society, then I don't know if that's something we're looking for here. But I'm sure this will be a useful read anyway, regardless. If you want a completely comprehensive paper on everything that can be leveraged for identifying and pursuing goals, you're essentially writing a unified map of how goals are chosen, how they're translated into action, how action is sustained under constraints, how progress is measured and adapted, and how the whole system interacts with mind, body, environment, and society. Below is a high coverage topic checklist that you can treat like a table of contents. What counts as a goal, goal hierarchy, types of goals, normative foundation on what should we pursue. Oh wow. Okay. Can you add one or two sentences for each point so that I can better understand what each would cover, each topic / section. I don't know if that's exactly what I said last time, but let's run it. Oh, look at this. What was this? Definition and scope? What should we pursue? Look at that. Determining where to go. Covers how to decide whether a goal is worth pursuing in the first place, not whether it's achievable. It includes ethics, values, meaning, and trade-off principles that prevent effective goal pursuit from becoming self-defeating or harmful. Goal identification, where goals come from. Needs, motives, identity, emotion. Okay, and lived experience, including how some goals are inherited rather than chosen. This cover methods for surfacing real goals, values, exercises, and distinguishing them from socially imposed. Decision making and prioritization, goal design, planning and decomposition. Planning, that's something we might need. Motivation and persistence. Then cover practical levers. What the hell? I didn't give it that. That's stabilize persistence, commitment drives, devices, commitment devices, accountability, immediate reward. Okay, so yeah, I have to go through this stuff. This is good. This is good stuff. No, we're not able to rename unless I open this thing up. Okay. Let us call it there then. And then we could continue this. Via negativa. Improvement by subtraction. You focus on adding habits, but yeah, we can remove them. Yep. Not to-do list. Okay. Let's get out of here. Not sure if anyone's here, but thanks for chilling. Thanks for lurking. Darmadam, thanks for hopping in. And I hope the meditation's going well. And yeah, see everyone later. Have a good rest of the day.